people are watching, wanting to see that decline, because that's how this industry works.
Exactly, and after a fighter has lost, they start to say that the whole career is in decline.
Yeah.
We've heard what Hauser has said about Anthony Joshua's potential retirement.
What do you think about that?
I think that's premature.
I don't know. Look, apparently Hauser don't like me. I don't know where it like, but what are you talking about? You're writing a story about brain damage, Muhammad Ali, and the injuries that and you're relating it to a guy that's never really been in hard-fought wars. I mean, he's either knocked people out, he got dropped several times against Ruiz, but it wasn't like you're watching it going, what are you talking about? Hauser says, I'm not saying that there's signs of brain damage for Anthony Joshua. What are you talking about? It's the most disgusting piece of journalism I've ever seen. He doesn't know Anthony Joshua. He's never spoken to him. He's never been in camp with him. He's never spoke to his trainer. He lost a split decision to Alexander Usyk. 115, 113's outscored it to Usyk in a good performance. He wins nearly every round against Jermaine Franklin and should retire from the sport because Thomas Hauser says so. One person needs to retire. It's Thomas Hauser. You're living in it's just the most bizarre. And there was another piece from the Guardian a couple of weeks before, bizarre. But that piece was one of the most bizarre, and everybody I speak to has said the same thing. Bizarre. And listen, Thomas Hauser, great journalist, great servant to the sport. I don't really care. Because one thing I'm tired of in this sport is people who have been around a long time who just feel like they have the right to go. I mean, what is that article about? It's just bizarre. Bizarre. You're about to fight Deontay Wilder. Joshua's got so much money. He's a two-time heavyweight world champion. Do you not think that if there were any signs of decline, we wouldn't be fighting? I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
Now, beyond...
Those are the words of Eddie Hearn and Radio Raheem here. And we heard Eddie, go off on Hauser, which is a writer from the Gaurdian. Okay, Gaurdian is a website, online newspaper that talks about boxing, and, Eddie went on a mini rant about, how Anthony Joshua showing signs of retirement or thinking he should retire. Basically, that's what he said. And you have to remember something. Everyone has an opinion, but the opinion of writers echoes throughout the whole sport. Okay, once a writer says anything, or a coach or an ex-trainer, new podcaster such as Teddy Atlas or countless other people, in this sport, when they say something, it matters. You can obviously see it got a rise out of Eddie. And he's saying, well, it's bizarre. I don't know what he has against Anthony Joshua. Hasn't really talked to him. And there's a lot of people like that. Okay, for example, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has a huge platform, but if you only listen to Joe Rogan and not other not The Breakfast Club or, Sway in the Morning and, other radio stations or podcasts like that, and you just listen to Joe Rogan, you would think Anthony Joshua is trash, and he's been trash since the last 5 years. And it just goes you to show that a lot of people have a big following. So I can understand the frustration and mindset and a reaction from Eddie, because he knows these guys have a lot of influence. Okay. And saying that and looking at what he said about Anthony Joshua showing signs of retirement, this, that, and the other, or signs of decline. Well, if anything, he's not showing signs of decline. He's showing signs of underperforming due to not wanting to be where they think that he is. Okay. See, Anthony is actually the opposite. He's not going to go in like he started at the first part of his career. He started out blasting people out. And then, yeah, he really received the red flash, the caution sign, and his went off in his brain in the Ruiz fight. Why? Because he knew, like, yo, I can be hurt. I am destructible. You know what I mean? So that is really what kind of went off, and he started to want to learn more things to fight smarter and not harder. Let's do this job without doing this job like I've been doing this job. Okay, so, but then, yeah, he's going to lose some fans, especially if the KOs stop. You know what I mean? Like if the KOs stop coming after 2 back-to-back losses, and understand, and I'll talk about those losses here in a second, but understand, people want to see a type of Joshua that's reinvigorated, rejuvenated, a sign of this person like, no, I ain't going nowhere. I'm coming back. Not a person saying, hey, I need to box smarter, not harder. So this is the type of shit you're going to get. So expect it. There you go. Because here's the deal. If Anthony Joshua had that type of mindset, he wouldn't have that type of demeanor afterwards. You know what I mean? I don't think the way he fought Jermaine Franklin suited him personally. Because regardless of what Joshua tells you, like I don't have that demeanor as a bruiser and this, that, and the other. Yes, you do. See, if Joshua didn't have the demeanor of a bruiser, you wouldn't have seen that shit after the last 2 fights he's had. You wouldn't seen him chunk those belts out of the ring. You wouldn't have seen all that aggression. You wouldn't have seen that shit with Jermaine Franklin, that bizarre grab him and hold him and damn near riot. Because look, that's the time when the shit stops. So both times you had an opportunity to leave it in the ring and you did not, because your mindset was, let me preserve myself. But then after the bell rings, you're supposed to cut that shit off, and it didn't happen. So that tells me, people, that Anthony Joshua is a person that's not being truthful for who he really is. He's a hothead. He's aggressive hothead. And see, based on the last 2 performances, now you can understand why people accuse him of maybe juicing and this, that, and the other. The first fight people say that roid rage. Okay? People would be saying that, roid rage, like, yo, what's wrong with this dude? But it's like, okay, well, it's kind of reversed, because why didn't you try to knock the guy out? Leave that aggression, leave that energy in the ring, leave that spirit there. The knowing, I tried to knock this fucking guy out because he said he should have. He tried to knock Usyk out, he didn't, and Usyk came back and showed him what he had. Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? He showed him some of that shit too. So, like with Joshua, I think he needs to leave it in the ring, so then there's nothing else left. You know what I mean? And I think that's the problem. And so when people do hear him, they just see frustration and all this other negative stuff, where it's Joshua trying to tone it down, but he ain't ready, and he shouldn't be ready to tone it down. He needs to flare it back up. It just needs to do it more calculated, but try to get that win so you won't have those type of feelings or animosity or regret after the fight. So maybe, just maybe, we won't see shit like the end of Usyk 2 rematch and all that, or the end of Jermaine Franklin and how that went down. We won't see any of that. We'll see a guy that's like, I tried my best. I'm learning here and there with my new trainer, Derek James, this, that, and the other. There you go. That's what we should see. But for him to say, retirement, no, he shouldn't retire based on, a wild card, a guy that's unknown, like Jermaine Franklin, that had a tough fight with Dillian White. And then he's just showing that, hey, I ain't going nowhere, and I'm not as bad as what people thought I was. That's Jermaine Franklin's story right now. And I got a paycheck that's going to take care of my family, so I don't have to work at a steel mill. So he's working for dual reasons. So you bet your ass he's going to fight him. He ain't going to go nowhere. He ain't going to fold. He ain't going to lay down, because he don't have that lay down in him. That man's from Michigan. You think people from Michigan have a laying down mechanism? I think not. Right? So at the end of the day, I understand Eddie Hearn and his frustration with the Guardian, because I think he took it too far. But there is a happy medium of understanding why this guy took it or was in the mindset of taking it too far, because, there are some things to really analyze about Anthony Joshua that does make you go, But anyway, that's my counterpunch on Eddie Hearn responding to the Guardian writer of Joshua possibly retiring. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.